Vox dies first. One moment, my sergeant is screaming for orders, asking, begging, demanding to know what's happening. The next, it's just static. No command, no reinforcement schedules, no extraction. Just a hollow, mindless hiss. That's when I know. That's when we all know. The sky turns black in the space of a breath. Night doesn't fall, it crashes. The clouds boil, roiling with sickly reds and bruised purples, veins of lightning splitting the heavens apart. Then the world shakes, hard enough to knock me off my feet, hard enough to make the hab blocks, those towering ferrocrete monoliths, sway like dying trees. Something detonates in the upper atmosphere. For half a second, it's beautiful. A slow golden ripple across the sky, like the Emperor himself has cracked an egg across the firmament. Then it falls. Fire. It starts high. A rain of white-hot stars, pinpricks of flame streaking down, drawing long, glowing trails. Beautiful. Then the first one hits, and the world goes blind. A new sun erupts on the horizon. Everything turns to light and pain. The shockwave follows. It doesn't crash, it obliterates. The hab block I was using for cover ceases to exist, atomized into dust before my brain even registers the explosion. I run. No thought, no hesitation, just survival. I don't make it far before the second impact comes. This one closer, too close. It throws me off my feet. The ground lifts, cracks, drops out beneath me. My head slams against something hard, and for a moment, I think I'm dead. But the dead don't hurt. I wake to the scent of burning flesh. I don't move. I can't. My body is pinned under something heavy, something unyielding. My arms work, but my legs are screaming. Pain lances up my spine like hot iron pressed to my bones. I am buried. I blink the blood from my eyes. My vision swims. The world is fire. Everything is on fire. The street, the buildings, the sky itself. Everything is breaking, melting, turning into something worse. I try to move again. Something in my ribs shifts the wrong way. I choke down a scream. I am not alone. There are voices, weak, distant, some crying, some calling for the Emperor, some too far gone to be words anymore. A pair of boots stumble past my vision. Imperial Guard standard issue. They stop. A low voice, barely above a whisper. He's alive. Hands reach down, grip my shoulders, haul me free. I hit the ground hard, coughing dust, blinking up at a face I know. Guardsman Halleck. Same regiment, same squad. But something is wrong. His eyes are too wide, his hands won't stop shaking. And his laser gun? The charge pack is missing. I open my mouth to speak, but he's already moving, already pulling me up, already running. Get up, he hisses. We have to go, now. I don't ask why. First turn, I see, and I run, because the sky is still burning. We ran until our lungs turned to fire. Then we kept running. The air was thick with something more than smoke. It tasted wrong, like metal and rot, like something had died in my mouth. The burning ruins stretched in every direction, twisted shadows of a dead city, flickering against the orange glow of a dying sky. Halleck didn't speak. He just moved. Fast, desperate, always looking back. His hands still shook. Something had broken in him. Something was breaking in me too. The heat was worse than anything I'd ever known. My breath felt like I was swallowing embers, my skin already cracking from the dryness. My throat screamed for water. There was none. I didn't realize how bad it was until we stopped. Not because we wanted to, because Halleck collapsed. I hit the ground beside him, panting. His face was hollow, skin stretched thin over his bones. I saw the dried blood at the edges of his lips, the dust caking his sunken eyes. "We need water," I rasped. Halleck laughed, a dry, empty sound. "There's no water." My stomach twisted. Not from fear, from hunger. I hadn't noticed before, but now, it was all I could think about. My body was devouring itself, the same way the flames had devoured the city. The gnawing inside me was worse than the heat, worse than the pain in my ribs. We sat there, two dead men still pretending to be alive. Then Halleck whispered, "We're not alone." I turned my head too fast. My vision swam, but I saw them. Shapes moving through the ruins, low, slow, cautious, not animals, not people, something else. Survivors? Halleck tensed beside me. "No," he whispered, "not survivors." They were moving with purpose, hunting, sticking to the shadows, slipping between the collapsed streets and broken walls, watching, waiting. I gripped my laser gun, no charge pack, just dead weight. Halleck was already on his feet. "Move," he breathed. I didn't ask why. We ran, again. The ground was uneven, streets cracked and buckled. The heat had turned ferrocrete into warped glass, making every step treacherous. The city was no longer a city. It was a corpse. Behind us, the things moved faster. Not running, not chasing, herding. I gritted my teeth. We had to find cover. We had to... Halleck stumbled. His foot caught on something. He went down hard. A muffled curse. The sound of tearing flesh. I grabbed him by the arm and pulled. "Leg!" he gasped. I looked down. Rusty rebar was jutting through his calf. Blood. Too much blood. I tore a strip from my uniform and wrapped it tight. He gritted his teeth, a scream dying behind clenched jaws. I looked around. No safe place. No shelter. The ruins were too exposed. Then I saw it. A collapsed hab block. The lower levels had caved in, but the basement... There. I hauled him up. He barely moved. The hunger had already stolen his strength. Behind us, the shadows were closer. I could hear them now. Wet breathing. Bare feet scraping against stone. I dragged him the last few meters, shoving him inside the ruined basement. Darkness swallowed us. I collapsed beside him, heart slamming against my ribs. Silence. Then, after what felt like hours, Halleck whispered, "They're still out there." I knew. I could hear them. Waiting. They weren't leaving. Neither were we. Not until morning. Not until we found food. And if we didn't, I wasn't sure we'd stay human. We didn't sleep. Halleck was still bleeding. Not enough to kill him. Just enough to make him weak. His breath was ragged, the kind that meant infection was coming. The kind that meant I'd be carrying him soon. If we lived that long. The things outside hadn't moved. I could hear them shifting in the ruins, slow and deliberate. Waiting. They didn't speak. Didn't growl. Just existed. Halleck had his back against the cold stone, staring up at the crumbling ceiling. "They're starving us out." I nodded. He coughed, wet and shallow. "We need food." We needed a miracle. I forced myself up, pressing my back to the wall, rifle useless in my hands. The room was small, some kind of storage basement, long abandoned. Rusted shelves, a half-collapsed ceiling, and debris so thick we could barely move without kicking up clouds of choking dust. But I saw something. A canister. I crawled toward it, hands shaking. When I picked it up, I almost laughed. Imperial ration pack. Not much, not fresh, but enough. I turned to Halleck. A sound, a voice. Not outside. Inside. A whisper. Faint. Too close. I froze, turned my head. My pulse hammered behind my eyes. In the farthest corner of the room, something moved. Halleck saw it too. I heard his breath hitch, a shape, hunched, small, human, number not human. The voice came again, software, hollow, not spoken, but exhaled. Hunger. The darkness shifted. The shape crawled forward. I saw fingers, too long, too thin, clutching at the stone. So hungry. Halleck grabbed my wrist, hard. We leave. Now. I nodded. Slowly, carefully, I backed toward him, ration pack still clutched in my fist. The shape kept moving. Closer. The voice had no breath behind it. "Don't leave me!" Halleck lunged, grabbed my arm, pulled me to my feet. The thing in the corner screamed. Not a human sound, not an animal sound. A wail of empty hunger. We ran. I didn't think. Just moved. Out of the basement, up into the ruins, into the open air. The city welcomed us back like a corpse's embrace. The sky was still wrong, too bright, too dead. The air tasted like burning teeth. I turned. Halleck wasn't beside me anymore. I spun, scanning the rubble. Halleck! I saw him, dragged back toward the basement by too many hands. His face was frozen in horror, his mouth open, a scream too weak to reach me. I moved. I fucking moved. I hit the ground beside him, grabbing his arm, pulling, but they wouldn't let go. The hands, pale, clawed, shriveled like famine had taken them decades ago, dragged at him, pulling him back into the dark. I saw their faces then. Not just one, dozens, starved, skin tight against skulls, eyes black pits. I pulled harder. "Get fucking up!" Halleck screamed. Then he was free. We collapsed in the dirt, gasping. Behind us, the creatures shrank back into the ruins, into the dark. Not defeated, just waiting. Halleck sat up, shaking. He was staring at his leg, at his boot, at his foot. Or rather, where it used to be. Gone. I swallowed bile. "Can you move?" He didn't answer. He just nodded. We kept going, because we had to, because the things in the dark were still watching, because the hunger hadn't ended. Not yet. We didn't talk about his foot. Halleck moved. That was enough. I should have stopped, should have made him rest. But stopping meant thinking, and thinking meant understanding how fucked we were. So we moved. The streets had changed. I didn't notice at first, too focused on keeping Halleck upright, on watching the ruins for shadows that slithered when you weren't looking. But the deeper we went, the worse it got. The firestorm had turned most of the city into a glass-blown graveyard. But not here. Here, the buildings still stood. The streets were intact, not untouched, but wrong. Too perfect, too clean. Halleck noticed first. "Where's the ash?" I frowned. He was right. No dust, no rubble. The air should have been thick with the taste of burning bodies and ferrocrete. But here, it was just still. Then I saw them. The statues. Not actual statues. People. Frozen mid-run, mid-scream. Their bodies twisted in terror. Ash-coated, like they'd been sculpted from dust. I stepped closer. Too close. The face of the nearest one wasn't just fear. It was pain. Horror, locked in place. I reached out. The moment my fingers brushed its arm, the dust collapsed. The shape crumbled in on itself, folding into nothing but ash. No bones, no remains. Just emptiness. Halleck coughed. "Exterminatus doesn't do this." He was right. I knew what Exterminatus did. This question mark. This was something else. The street ahead of us curved into an intersection leading to a plaza. Something called to me there. Not a voice, not words, just a pull. We moved without thinking. The plaza was massive, too massive. Like it didn't belong to this city. Like it had been built by hands that didn't understand human scale. And at its center, a door. A single metal slab, half buried beneath collapsed stone. Untouched by fire. No Mechanicus sigils, no warning signs. Just waiting. I swallowed. Halleck saw it too. "That's not Imperial." He was right. It wasn't. but it was open, and something was breathing inside. I turned to Halleck. He didn't say anything. He didn't need to, because we both knew we were going in. The air changed the second we stepped inside. It wasn't cooler. It wasn't warmer. It was just different. Like stepping into a space that shouldn't exist. A place where air wasn't made for lungs. I tried not to think about it. We moved slow. Halleck limped beside me, his breathing sharp and ragged. He should have been dead. He looked like he wanted to be. But he kept moving. That was enough. The passage led down. The walls were smooth, featureless. No seams, no signs of construction. As if the tunnel had been grown instead of built. The breathing was louder. Not ours. The other thing. And then the tunnel opened. The room was vast. A cavern, stretching out into the dark. The ceiling lost in shadow. But it wasn't empty. Something stood in the center. Not a machine. Not a shrine. A throne. And something was sitting on it. I stopped. I didn't want to see. My brain was already screaming at me not to understand. But it was too late. Halleck gasped. "Emperor, protect us." It was human. Once. Maybe. The figure on the throne was thin, mummified, skin pulled tight across bones, mouth frozen in something that might have been a scream. No eyes, no lips. But the worst part, it was still breathing. The chest rose, fell, shuddering, slow. And then, it moved. Not all of it. Just the head. Just enough. And when it spoke, I knew we had made a mistake. "I see you." I raised my rifle. Pointless. My hands shook anyway. Halleck tried to step back. His foot scraped against the stone. The thing on the throne turned toward us fully. "Do you want to live?" The words weren't spoken. They were inside my skull, pressed against the inside of my thoughts like fingers through wet clay. I swallowed. Yes. Halleck grabbed my arm. "Don't." The thing on the throne tilted its head. The motion wasn't right. Too fluid. Too slow. "Then make a trade." A sound. Metal shifting against metal. A door. Behind the throne, a hatch opened, a stairway leading up, an exit. Salvation. Halleck shook his head. "It's lying." I wanted to believe that. But we had no food, no water, no way out. I stepped forward. Halleck grabbed my wrist. "You don't know what it wants." I looked at him, really looked. At his sunken eyes, his ragged breath, his missing foot. He wasn't coming with me. He knew it. I knew it. He smiled. Just a little. The closest thing to peace I'd seen on his face in days. And then he let go. I turned, stepped past the throne. The figure watched me go. I climbed the stairs. One step, then another. I didn't look back. I reached the top. The hatch led to the surface. The dead city stretched before me, but above, the sky was clear. A single Valkyrie cut across the horizon, its searchlight sweeping the ruins. A rescue team. I stepped forward. I waved. The light caught me. The Valkyrie slowed. And then, I woke up.